All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Cory Means Business podcast and YouTube show. Got a very special show for you today. I've got one of my very good friends, been friends for a heck of a long time. He's a business owner in Tucson. He runs a couple of different businesses, tool distribution business, as well as a excavating company that he just started last year that's going bananas. So all the entrepreneurs out there that are watching, people that are thinking about opening their business, this is the guy you want to listen to, because this guy has taken businesses from the bottom. I mean, talking just starting out with a telephone, nothing else, and no money, no nothing, just a telephone and a dream and some sweat equity, and has built it up to some very significant numbers and significant business, and employs a lot of people and actually does a lot of good in the community and for his family. So really pleasure for you to be here. His name's Josh Smith, by the way. I know I didn't say that. And so thanks, Josh, for coming on the show. If you could tell our audience a little bit about like your background as far as, you know, just how you grew up and how you end up like starting in business. Well, hold that just one second. The topic for today is desire. I mean, he and I chop it up all the time because he's got employees, I've got employees, and you know, it's always hard to motivate them. And so we wanted to do a show today just talking about, like, for the two of us, how we found our fire inside, like how we went from being employees, which we both were, to being business owners and then being entrepreneurs, because we were solopreneurs for a while, you know, just solo, and then you obviously start adding employees and stuff like that. So we're going to talk about desire and just how to find that in you and like where that comes from and how that comes about. So Josh, if you will, introduce yourself a little bit and just tell us more about your background and how you got started. You know, where, you know, first of all, I want to know, and I think the audience wants to know, like, how did you get started in sales? Because I know that most people that start businesses, they come from a sales background. So when you first got into sales, like, what were you selling, and how did you end up knowing that being in sales and was where you wanted to be?
First of all, let me give a big thanks to Cory for putting this together. I've been trying to get on a podcast for a minute with a couple of my buddies, and you got a social media following that this will touch some people, and I know it's going to make a difference, and that's what I wanted to do, and that's why I'm here. Sales started for me, man, at a young age. My dad wasn't around. My mom was doing the best she could. And 12 years old, working summers for Summer Youth Employment Program in Tucson. That was only summertime work, and then it ran out. Started knocking on people's doors. Well, back up. Before I started knocking on people's doors, I was fucking selling lemonade at 8 and 10 years old, and I'm not joking. 25-cent lemonade stands.
Yeah,
that's a real story. When I see it on TV, I've had my daughter do it, and I posted that. When I see it on some of these motivationals or some of these other people that have done it, it touches me because I did it. I've been there, and I absolutely had a lemonade stand when I was 8 years old.
Right.
25 cents. And, you know, once you start doing stuff like that and you get that hunger or the desire, that transformed into knocking on people's doors, starting a small landscape company of my own. From the time I was 12 till I was 15 years old, I literally was knocking on people's doors, asking them if I could use a hula hoe and a shovel and a rake and some loppers and a wheelbarrow and some trash bags to clean people's yards up to make it look nice for them. And I did it for 3 years straight after I started doing SYEEP. When that stopped, I continued it till I was 16 years old. And by the time I was 16, I had 15 to 20 different people that had me come over to their house every month and clean up their yard.
Wow.
And it became pretty easy to knock on a door when people started saying yes. And it's not just about knocking on the doors, though. For me at that time, I took pride in what I was doing. I wanted people's front yards when I left. I wanted them to tell their neighbors. And, 15,
and you wanted them to have you back.
Absolutely.
Obviously, that was the primary factor, I'd imagine, is to get invited to come back and do it again.
Very important to have repeat business in sales.
Right.
Very important.
Right.
It's one of the most important things in sales, I believe. And at that time, being young, I didn't have a lot of knowledge. I just had one thing going for me that my grandfather instilled in me at a super young age, and that was be on time. So I showed up when I said I was going to be there, whether it was Sunday at 5 o'clock in the morning, because that's the only time this customer would allow me to come over because they had church on Sundays and they had work, whatever it would be. I'm on time. I'm there when I'm saying I'm going to be there. And to this day, I feel like that's one of my biggest attributes, to being successful. I know that's for a different podcast, but.
So the desire, because today's topic is really like, defining the desire, and it kind of sounds like, with the lemonade stand, and then being willing to obviously knock on doors, there must have been something in you, even from a young age, that was kind of, entrepreneurial or wanted to, make money. You were money driven early. What age did making money, or I guess my question would be, what really compelled you, do you think, to say, hey, I'm 12 years old, I'm going to start a landscaping company, and I'm willing to knock on people's doors and ask for work? What compelled you to do that?
Probably because I was raised by my mother, who was not making a bunch of money. We didn't have any other income, and she wanted to spoil me and buy me everything that she possibly could, and I didn't want that. I wanted to be able to buy my own shit. And being self-built, I feel like to this day I've carried it very well. To when I want something for myself, I go out there and I get it. And now as an entrepreneur or a business owner, I try to pass those same traits on to the people I surround myself with, whether that be my friends, my kids, my family, my employees. My employees get it from me every day, and half the time, more than half the time, you know how it is, they can't freaking stand it.
Right.
But I'm still getting after them on a daily, weekly basis, trying to instill some of those traits at a young age that I just gathered, knowing that my mom was struggling, man. When I was young, my mom and my grandparents did everything that they could for me. Anytime I wanted something, they wanted to buy me too. Because like I said, my dad wasn't around. Right. So my father figure, my grandfather at the time, they lived 3 miles away from where my mom lived. And like if I wanted a Super Nintendo, they bought me 2 Super Nintendos. And I didn't want to be that spoiled brat kid. So as I got to that age, 12, 13 years old, I didn't want to be disliked by my friends because I was the spoiled, rotten kid. I wanted to be able to go out there and buy that shit myself and know that I worked and I put the time in, whether it was a Super Nintendo or a new pair of shoes, or it didn't matter what it was. I just knew that I wanted to put the time in for it so nobody could point the finger at me and say you're a spoiled brat. Because I absolutely was a spoiled child.
So you're saying then that really the desire to start the business and make your own money was just so that you wouldn't be putting pressure on your grandparents and on your mom to have to do that for you.
Absolutely.
So it's pride, pretty much pride is kind of where that was coming from.
I was over watching my mom and my grandparents struggle, man. None of them came from, none of them made big money. They all were very career set. My mom worked for the same company for 30 years and was the number one sales person at the company for 25 of the 30 years. So I'm sure I get a lot of it from my mother.
Right.
But just the desire came from wanting to be able to help around my household. And that didn't mean buy groceries for the family. I wasn't doing any of that. But I didn't want my mom. I wanted a lot of cool shit, man. What kid doesn't? I wanted the newest shoes. I wanted to buy clothes, gerbos. I wanted all the cool stuff as a kid, and I didn't want to see my grandparents or my mom struggle to provide that for me.
And it kind of sounds like, too, that you wanted to have the pride and the satisfaction of knowing that you had done it yourself too. So instead of your friends looking at you saying, "Oh wow, cool toy," and you're like, "Yeah, my grandparents bought it for me," you can say, "Yeah, I earned that money and I got it for myself."
I think that was the driving factor at a young age. Right. If you had to narrow it down to one thing, I think the driving factor was friends treating me some type of way, if you want to call it, because I was the spoiled kid. Right. And I didn't want to be addressed as a spoiled kid. So I started working at a young age, and I'm still working my ass off to this day, and I don't see an end in sight.
Right.
I feel like, I swear to God, I feel like I'm just getting started.
Yeah. Well, you are. Yeah, you're just now coming in to your prime earning years. Prime earning years for businesses, for business owners, or for anybody, at all. Your prime earning years are between 40 and 55 to 60. That's your prime years. It takes those early years to learn what the hell you're doing, right? A lot of mistakes will be made, and you'll just make some stupid decisions and take it for granted what your opportunity is. But when you get to that 40-year-old range, you start to realize, okay, this clock is kind of ticking fast. I don't have forever like I used to think I did when I was 25 and 30. I can't make mistakes anymore, and I can't waste time. And I know for me, when I turned 40, I was kind of like, my mentality too was, I don't have any time to waste anymore. In your 30s, you're still thinking like, I can waste. I can screw this all up and still fix it later on. But you get in your 40s, and I think you start realizing, one, you're out of time. Two, it sucks to have to do it all over again anyway, so why not just do it right the first time? So I think a lot of mistakes end up getting cleared up. Your knowledge, your skill is where it needs to be. Your understanding of how things work is starting to come together. Because if you look at most self-made millionaires and entrepreneurs, they learned in their 20s and 30s. Maybe made some good money in their 30s. I mean, made some toy money and, lived in nice houses and had some nice cars and all that kind of stuff. But not wealth money, not empire building money, not businesses that are going to, that you could walk away from, or you could have someone else run for you and the money keeps flowing in. And I think both you and I kind of had that same story where we made a lot of money in our 30s, but if I don't show up at the business, money stops. Like right that day. So right, as I was definitely tied to the business, whereas now in my upper 40s,
Not me, buddy.
I can leave for a couple of weeks and things are going to keep on rolling. So really, I think that's why between 40 and that 55, 60ish range, you can really start making a significant income. So all right, so then you do the lemonade stand, you learn what business is kind of like, you learn some sales, you start the landscaping company, and then you did that. Obviously, at some point, probably hanging out with friends and chasing girls and all that probably start taking a little priority over the landscaping company, as it does for all of us. So then you go to school. I mean, at what point, so take us after you get out of high school. What's your life look like? What were you doing, and what led you to getting to where you're at now?
Doing the 12 to 16 years old, I was doing the SYEEP and doing the landscaping. I had 15-ish houses that I tried to tend to every month. And getting into high school, I got arrested stealing and it was 100% on accident. I literally stole a thing of deodorant for $2.99 at the time, walked around the store and put it in my back pocket. I paid the price. I took it right on the chin, whatever. I got paper arrested. The manager of the store at that time was like, hey, I was 14. He's like, hey, when you're old enough to come work, I've never had somebody like you in this office before. The cop was there and shit. And so he offered me a job. Well,
wow. So you get a job offer as you're getting arrested?
Absolutely.
You must have made a hell of an impression.
So I get arrested for stealing paper arrest, and my mom had to come down there and shit. I get arrested for stealing some deodorant, dude. I'm 14 years old, and he's like, when you're old enough to come work, I want you to come work for me. I literally hit him up the day I was old enough to come work, and he hired me that day, and I was the first employee at a Bashas' on Houghton and Broadway. It was a brand new construction up there. The first day that place opened, I was the first employee that the dude hired, man. I met the store manager. He was at Albertsons at the time. Then he went to Bashas', and when he went to Bashas', it happened to be the time where I was old enough to work. Worked there for a little while. Then I started working at Albertsons, did the car wash. I mean, I had, from the time I was 16 to the time I was 19, I probably had 12 different jobs. I was bouncing around from job to job to job, doing some other shit I shouldn't have been doing at a young age, which we all have done that, I'm sure, in some way, shape, form, or fashion, trying to get that fast money, which fast money does not work. I'll tell you that right now.
It definitely doesn't last, that's for sure.
It might work, but it's definitely a short-term money for sure.
Right.
Getting some fast money, man, and got in trouble at a young age, and which I'm not embarrassed about at all, because it definitely led me to where I'm at today. I got a phone call. I was 19 years old. I got in trouble. Got a phone call from a good friend of mine. You know him, Scooty. Right, Scott Auclair. Right. I appreciate you tremendously, buddy. I'm indebted to you for the rest of my life. He picked the phone up one day randomly and called me and said, hey, man, I'm working for this company selling tools. My sister's been the assistant here for a year.
Wow.
Like the secretary.
Right.
And he's like, I think you would be really good at this.
And how old were you at this point?
I was 19.
19. Okay.
I started selling tools when I was 20.
Okay.
But I was 19 years old at this time.
Right.
And, you know, 12, 15 different jobs, but from the time I was 15 and some change till I was 19 years old, bouncing around job to job, you know, trying to figure out my avenue in life, if you want to call it that. And I knew it wasn't for me, dude. I just knew it wasn't for me. And when he called me up and told me about this job, it took a few months to get me over there. He had just started working there, and then he called me again probably 3 or 4 months after he started there selling tools, and he's like, man, you need a job, because at that time I was on house arrest. I had an ankle monitor. I had to have a job. He's like, I really think you'd be good at this. You should at least come check it out. Went down there, checked it out, and it was anybody that's walked in a tool room that knows what I'm talking about when you sell tools for a living over the phone.
Right. So this is selling tools over the phone. So you're working in a call center. You get leads in front of you of contractors. And then you make the call to the contractor and offer them variety of tools. You got books of different tools and so forth.
All outbound, no inbound sales, very high pressure, now, strictly sales based, like 100% sales. And when I walked in the tool room, man, there was rock and roll music playing, loud rock and roll music playing.
Right.
There's like 5 guys on the telephone in this little 800 square foot room, and there's these little boxes, little speaker boxes on the desk that are projecting the whole phone call. And
kind of like the old Charlie's Angels, Charlie talking to the angels thing.
Yes. Very boiler room, Glengarry Glen Ross, Wolf of Wall Street, that type of sales going on. High pressure, very intense.
Just ride it right into the fire, right?
Yes. Oh, right into the bullpen, dude. And it caught me by surprise. And anybody that's walked in a tool room for the first time, they get shocked. They're like, this is a business. Yeah. Like you really selling something right now? Just
to give the listeners and the watchers a little background on it. I remember when I first went to visit him at his business, and he's like, "Yeah, come on down, stop by the shop and check things out." I walk in, and this is probably like 10 years ago, 12 years ago. Maybe been longer than that. I don't know. It's been a while.
It was longer than that.
So I walk in, and man, Eminem. I remember Eminem is like blaring on the frickin', and I'm like, what the hell is going on in here, man? And I had seen the ads in the newspaper back then, you know, before online, you guys used to get the newspaper to read the help wanted. I remember I saw that ad all the time. Come work in a rock and roll environment, sell tools in a rock and roll environment. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? Well, I found out. And Eminem was blaring. There was like 10, 15 guys all standing up, yelling in the phone, talking about, you know, can I ship you some weather and some bikinis and this and that. So it was definitely, if you've never been in one, it's definitely pretty cool. You wouldn't believe that business and money's being made there, but it's definitely a rock and roll environment.
It is.
All right, so they throw you into this, and then
throw me in the bullpen, and I had to have a job. I didn't have a choice. So got fired from my previous job because when I got in trouble, obviously, I called in sick for 5 days, and at that time I was like, these dudes are paying $1 more an hour than minimum wage. I'm going to give it a shot. Gave it a shot, and 3 or 4 months into the business, I got my first paycheck for a week that had a comma in it.
Wow.
Dude,
so right out of the gate, you were just smashing.
I wasn't smashing consistently, but I made $1,000 paycheck in under 6 months working for this company, dude. No Saturdays, no Sundays at that time.
Wow.
And, you know, at 19 or 20 years old, and you make $1,000 in a week, it's pretty easy to get hooked.
Right.
I got hooked.
Nice.
But my hooked and other people's hooked is a little bit different, man. I've had that desire to want to help other people along the way. It's taken a long time to learn this, but at that time I was young-minded. It took me 2 years to open my own tool company.
You're 20 years old, obviously.
Yeah. 2 years.
Most 20-year-olds are just running around trying to, get a date for the night. So, so you're 20, you come out swinging, you get a couple of good paychecks going, let you know that, hey, I can really do this, So how long did it, I know that you eventually became their top sales rep. How long did that take to go from the new guy to the top sales rep?
Under a year, I was calling up other tool companies. Wow. Under a year, calling up other tool companies, making bets for who could outsell who, and the winner or the loser of the bet would have to wash the other person's car in a bikini. Under a year.
There you go. There's a spiff.
Yeah, that's a good one. Watching a dude that's been selling tools for 10 years having to wash your vehicle in a bikini, it's a pretty good feeling, dude.
Yeah, too bad it wasn't social media and camera phones back then. Yeah, that's another way to make it fun too, to do stuff like that. Competition obviously is a big time driver for a lot of people, and I'm sure in that environment, probably competitions and spiffs and stuff like that probably go a long way to motivate people. Getting back into the desire, so you kind of knew you wanted to do something, you're bouncing around, but then you get this thing and then you get that quick paycheck, you get that little hit on that money, that $1,000 a week, and you're like, holy shit, I can do $1,000 a week. And then you say, okay, I can take this, and this can be a vehicle that I do something with. Instead of the 19 jobs you've been bouncing around, or the 15 jobs over 4 years you're bouncing around, you decided, it hit you, it sounds like to me, that you could do something with this. This might be a vehicle that could take you somewhere.
This is a point in my life where I can make a turn down a good road and chase down decent money, what I thought was decent money at the time,
right,
and not go down the other road.
Right. Well, of course, there's levels to this, right? So what we thought was decent money back then isn't decent money,
Correct.
Wouldn't cross the street for it now, but, you progress. One of the things that I love about his story is the progression from, delinquent, getting in trouble, stealing a $2, item in a store, to, getting a job offer, and then obviously bouncing around, and then being able to find the vehicle that he could say, hey, I can do something with this. All right, so then you become number one sales guy in a year. You're challenging other sales guys that have been in the business a hell of a long time. At some point, obviously, this company starts talking to you about branching out.
Let me get into that.
How does that work?
Actually, Jacob Ryan, thank you very much for training me, sir. I appreciate it tremendously. My buddy Jake at the time, who was the one that trained me how to sell tools, was very by the book, very strict. This is how you do it. You follow this, and that is it. At the time, he was not doing too well. He was drinking, and something got written on the sales board one day, and he had had enough. He was in the business I had been in the business at that time 1.5 years, and he had been in the business about 7 years, 8 years. Something got written on the sales board in his box that really attacked him personally. He didn't like it. There's another sales company that does the same thing at that time that we're doing. Another company doing the same thing, pitching us to go work for him.
Right.
Jake takes the dive. He goes over there and starts selling tools for this other company. And at the time, the commission was 5% higher and a way bigger catalog. Well, a 5% commission that's a lot.
Sure. A
big fat raise. I let him guinea pig it for 3.5 months, and I told him that when he left. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere, dude. I'm happy here. I don't want to be that guy bouncing around anymore. I had lived that lifestyle for 4 years, and it sucked.
Right.
After 4 months, 3 or 4 months of being there, he calls me up and he's like, yo, dude, this is legit. Because all the people at the company we were working for at the time, of course, are talking trash about the other company. Don't go over there, this, that.
Always happens.
It always happens. Don't go over there. Well, he goes over there, and after 3 or 4 months, he calls me up and he's like, yo, this is legit. You need to check it out. So I made the trip downtown. At this time I was working on the east side, 10 minutes from my house, and the new tool company was downtown, so it was like a 20-minute drive, 25-minute drive, and I made the drive down there. I checked out their catalog, liked their pay, and put in my 2 weeks and started 2 weeks later. And once I made that transition to the new company, I started out selling everybody, man. And I was a youngster in the game. I was only in the tool game for a year and a half. Started out selling everybody. Moved out to Florida with another dude that had been in the business for a very long time. Moved out to Florida as his right-hand man. Was out in Florida for 6 or 7 months. And after 6 or 7 months went by, I was putting in all the fucking work. And the owner wasn't doing shit. Like working part-time, I'm a business owner type hours.
Right.
I was consistently opening the office more than him. I was consistently locking it up more than him. I was consistently there on Saturdays more than him, and I just got fed up with it. And I was homesick, man. I'm a mama's boy. I was freaking 2,500 miles away from home. I was 22 years old, and I got homesick. So 6 or 7 months go by. There's no growth. We're trying to hire people. I feel like I'm the only one trying to train these people at that time. And after 6 or 7 months, I just got sick of it, and I called up the owner of the company at that time and said, "Hey, I'm moving back to Tucson. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not going to have you guys. I'm getting my checks 2 weeks late because they mail the check to Arizona, then the Arizona check gets mailed to Florida. The dude cuts me a check a week later, so I'm on a 2.5 or a 2 week for sure. Sometimes a 3 week lag on my paycheck. I didn't want to do that anymore.
Right.
Call the owner of the company up, told him I'm moving back to Tucson. You got 2 options. Either A, you give me a code, which means I have my own business.
Start your own business.
Yes, my own business underneath you.
Right.
Or B, I'm going to go back and distribute for the other company that I was working for prior to that. And I remember it like it was yesterday, man. I moved back, and it was August, and he tells me, "I'll give you a code. You can have your own business. Give us till January 1st. So then I called up my mentor at that time, the dude that was above us, Kevin. You know Kevin very well.
Yep, good friend of mine.
Yep. Kevin, I called up Kevin. He was like the mediator between the salesman and Big State, because he was the owner of the company in Tucson at that time. And I just said, "Hey, man, I don't have until January. I've proven to you guys I can outsell everybody. I come in this place every day before everybody, without a doubt, whether I go out the night before and get drunk, because I was 22 years old.
Yeah, you're still a young guy.
Party
Yeah,
3 or 4 days a week.
Sure.
I'm still there every day at 5 o'clock in the morning before everybody else. Our shift started at 7 o'clock.
Still drunk.
Still drunk. And he still talks about it to this day.
Sure.
But I was still there.
Right.
When that alarm clock goes off at 3 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning to go to work, dude, to this day, I try and treat that alarm clock like an alarm clock when I'm going hunting. When I'm going hunting and my alarm clock goes off, dude, I'm up. It's right now.
Right.
You don't have to snooze or
hitting the snooze button.
There ain't none of that. It's right up and right now. And I treat my business alarm the same way I do my hunting alarm. And I think a lot of people, if you can wrap your head around that, what I just said, if you can treat when you're going on a Disneyland vacation with your kids or whatever that may be, whatever you're doing with your family, your girlfriend, your friends, the thing that you love to do when the alarm goes off and you just pop right up and you get in there and you throw your bags in the whip and you go. If you can treat everything with that same alarm clock schedule, it makes it way easier. And I've lived by that to this day. So
what do you think? I mean, on that point, right? Because clearly, keeping with the theme, there's desire going on there. So what's motivating you to treat it like that? So in your mind, you're saying like, hey, I got to treat this just like it's the most important thing, the funnest thing I could do. What makes you think like that? What do you think inside of you makes your mind work like that?
Probably because I'm competitive, man, and I was in a real competitive place at the time. There was a lot of good tool salesmen around at the time, and there were other people that had opened their own codes at the time, and I felt like I wasn't getting a shot at it because I was so young in the business, right? I'm only at this point, I'm under 2 years in the entire tool game at all, but I'm out selling 90% of the people in the business. I want a shot at entrepreneurship. I want a shot at my own business. Give me a shot at this. And called up Kevin, dude, and then that phone call, it was in August, and they told me September you can have your company.
Nice, okay. So you go from fresh hire, that $1,000 paycheck. I can be really good at this. You transition to best sales guy, top sales guy, and then all of a sudden, you're transitioning into actually getting your own distributorship under this company instead of working for the other distributorship you're working for. What are you thinking? Because this is, I think, for our audience, this is really key, because I know a lot of people they get stuck somewhere in between that. I'm an employee, I'm top producer, manager level-ish, but then they just kind of fizzle out right there. Like there's no like, I'm going to grow beyond that, right? I don't know if you've noticed that. I notice it a lot.
Oh, I do.
Okay.
It happens a lot in my business.
Yeah, mine too. You know, it happens a lot in business, period. You know, it's nothing, but there's something that happens where you say that's just not enough.
That's where I was going to say verbatim. You took the words right out of my mouth. It just wasn't enough.
It wasn't
I
enough.
knew that there was a way, way bigger ballpark that I could play in at that
So
time.
the desire there. So the desire that's telling you this isn't enough. I'm desiring to actually own my own business and do my own thing and continue to grow. Where's that desire coming from? What's motivating
I don't know, man. I was 22 years old. I saw big paychecks and I saw the ability to hire other people and help other people. At that time, I had no idea that that's what it was about.
Right.
But now that I'm 39 years old, I'm not 40 yet, buddy.
It's coming.
Now,
It's coming.
Now that I'm 39 years old, I know that the desire for me, without a doubt, is waking up every day and knowing that I've got my friends looking at me, I got my kids looking at me, I got my wife, I got my people, my family. Everybody looks at me and relies on me day in and day out to show up and to lead by example.
Right.
At that time, I had no idea that that's what I was doing, but I lived by that same moral, dude, that same exact desire, if you want to call it that, at that time.
So that desire at the time, because you know, I think where we're going with it, and again, this happened for me, and I think it happens for every entrepreneur, every business owner that ends up, you know, growing their businesses and getting employees and taking on those responsibilities. At first, you're just chasing the money.
Absolutely.
I mean, I was just chasing the
That's
money.
all I was
I
doing.
wanted a Lamborghini. That's what I wanted.
You had
That's,
one, buddy.
Oh, I know. That's what
Young,
I wanted.
too.
Yep. And I pushed myself because I was chasing the money. And I wasn't thinking about helping other people. And just at first, I think for all of us, it's a money chase.
I can promise you, for me, it was a money chase.
Yeah, me too. 100% a money chase.
Without a doubt.
Early on, it was a money chase. And so I started chasing the money, and I started like growing my business, and I got into business chasing the money. 'Cause I was making good money as a W-2 employee. I was making big money for these companies doing the commercial asset management, and you know, but I just got to a point where even though I was making really good money, it was in that same trap that I see other people in, where it's like, yes, I'm management, yes, I'm top producer, yes, I'm making good money and got the fancy office, but I'm sitting in that office with that good paycheck and that fancy view and everything, and I'm like, it just isn't enough.
It's not enough.
Isn't enough. And I think it was not only money, but control too. I think control had a lot to do with it. And it sounds like to me that's for you too. Like you in Florida, you felt like you were out of control. You had no control of the situation, no control of like what was happening, and you wanted more money, but I think you wanted more control too.
I did, totally. And then, you know, as it unraveled, dude, I started with a freaking 1,500 Massachusetts builders, a lead card box this big with 1,500 builders out of Massachusetts, borrowed a phone, a desk, and a chair from Kevin, and put an ad in and started calling people, and literally tried to hire within the first month of opening my doors.
You're saying then that you didn't have like a couple $100,000 to start this business?
Absolutely not. I didn't have any of it.
So what would you say your budget was to start the business?
I guarantee you I didn't have $5,000 in my pocket.
Okay. So point being that you don't need a lot of money to start a business. You just need a lot of desire and the commitment to work your ass off, really. You don't need a lot of money.
Not at all.
No?
I didn't have much at all. I borrowed desks and chairs literally to open my company.
Right.
I was still working out of the same bullpen that I was working out of at that time. Right. Started paying a little bit of rent and borrowed desks and chairs, dude, for the first 6 months of my business. Put an ad in the newspaper, got one of my buddies, Sammy.
Also, how soon, when you started the business, how soon did you have your first employee?
Well, the first month. Two of them. As a matter of fact, Scott, the guy that called me up to offer me a job, hey, you need to come do this, he worked for me for over a year.
So you were only a solopreneur for like a matter of weeks.
Under a month. Josh was my first employee.
Right.
Sammy at my barbershop hit me up and said, hey, I know what you do. You've been doing it for a while. There's a guy that I think can really do this. He's got a mouth on him. He won't shut up, blah, 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 blah. And you know how Kessel is, man.
Sure.
He came on board, and thank God he did, because he was an outstanding salesman. And when you have another outstanding salesman beside you,
right,
makes it way easier to grow.
Sure.
I wanted to grow. I watched people around me who had been in this business for 15 years didn't have the desire to grow. They want 1 or 2 employees, and that's enough.
Right. Right. Gets risky beyond that, and it's uncomfortable. Obviously, everybody, I think what stops everybody's growth, period. And because in my analysis over all these years of, and you've done it, I'm sure you can probably attest to this, out of the hundreds and hundreds of people that I've hired and fired and trained and all the companies that I've coached, everybody has the desire, I think, to want to be rich, to want to be in control, right? All the benefits that you have, but when it comes to the responsibility of it, people tap out, I think.
You got to put that work in, man.
Yeah, the work ethic too.
You got to put the work in, dude.
Right.
Hard work is always rewarded no matter what you do. And, dude, I know I'm fast forwarding 18 years. I've been doing this for 18 years, but I personally had my biggest month in business back in July. Well, another dude that sells tools in this town comes to my shop once a week, and he comes in at 4 a.m. with me because he wants to be around positive people. My office does really, really good. And he came over, and I had a banner week going. It was Wednesday morning, and I had 20 G's up on the board, which in tools, there's not very many people that have done 20,000 in a week, period.
Right.
This was Wednesday.
Right. Wow.
4 a.m. And he's like, dude, you got 20K on the board. What the hell are you doing here? And I'm like, you know what I'm doing here, dog. It ain't enough.
Right.
Wednesday, I sell another 15K on Wednesday. I got 35 G's up Wednesday. Thursday morning, he says, yo, can I come in? Sure, you can. Come in at 4 o'clock in the morning. He's like, yo, man, you got 35 G's on the board. I ended up with $55,000 in the week, and there is no way that I would have thought that I would ever sell 55 G's.
So this isn't your office. This is you personally.
Me personally. Just
personally,
me.
your personal,
Just me.
in addition to being the owner and manager and all this.
Oh, yeah.
You did $55,000 in tool sales. Remember, this is tools, not cars. We're not selling cars here at $50,000 a pop. Tools.
And
what's your average ticket? What's your average ticket?
Mine's like a G.
$1,000.
Mine's like a G.
So about 50, 55 sales. There are 50 sales.
At average, yes. My biggest sale that week was $8,000. But we're selling Sawzall blades. We're selling extension cords. We're selling grinding wheels. We're selling small.
So some orders are like $400 or $500.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. So
it takes a lot of orders to get to $55,000.
Dude, I've been doing this shit for 20 years though. And you want to talk about desire, when you do something for 20 years and you still come in and you still work Saturdays and you still work Sundays and it doesn't ever stop, that desire, it just will not run out for me. I don't know. I don't know how to put my finger on what the desire is, other than I want other people to understand that if you bust your ass, it's not hours and weeks and months and years, dude. It's decade after decade after decade of hard work and the willingness to wake up. And you can see this all over. We watch motivationals in my shop every single day for 15 minutes in the mornings. You see it all over on all these motivationals. You got to beat the world, man. You got to get ahead. You got to get ahead of the game, and you ain't getting ahead of the game when your alarm goes off at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And I think that's probably my number one winner in life, is that my alarm goes off
early
every day at 3:30.
Yeah, a lot of. I'm not in that category. My alarm goes off at 6, by the way, which for a lot of people 6 is still pretty early.
6 ain't 7 though.
So yeah, 6 ain't 7. No, 7 o'clock. No, that 7 o'clock's reserved for like Sunday sleeping in. I'll sleep in until about 7:30 on a Sunday. Other than that, it's 6 a.m. Sometimes it's 5:30. Sometimes I'll wake up and I'll look at the clock. It'll be 5:30. I'm like, screw it, just get up. Because if I go back to sleep, I'm going to be more tired.
Absolutely, you are.
So if your alarm clock, I'll give you guys a little life hack here, or a little business life hack. If you wake up and there's only a half hour or less on your alarm before your alarm is going to go off, just get up. Don't torture yourself, because if you fall back to sleep, man, you're going to be put in a world of hurt. So I'm sure your desire over these 20 years of being an entrepreneur, start out chasing the money, but at some point, I think probably for me and probably for a lot of other entrepreneurs and you too, setting the example for your employees, setting the example for your family, your kids, your friends, all the people that look up to you. Mentoring becomes a big part of that, right? So you have to hold yourself accountable to a certain level to live up to that.
And let other people know in the business too, man. I hire a lot of felons. I had posters in probation offices for 10 years straight.
Wow.
I hire a lot of felons. So understanding that, coming from a past where I got into a little bit of trouble, not a lot of trouble, I didn't hurt nobody or anything, I just got in a little bit of trouble.
Sure.
Putting those pamphlets or those flyers inside of probation offices, dude, and nonstop hiring people that couldn't have a shot anywhere else. And now I have tattoos. Back then I didn't have any tattoos, but people with tattoos, teardrops on their eyes, no way they can get hired anywhere. 1-2-time felons, wanting to let those people know at that. I didn't know it at that time. That's what I was doing. I just know I wanted to help people. Now I know, dude, you can change. I don't give a shit what your past is.
Right.
You can change.
Right.
No matter what you've done in your past, there is an avenue out there as long as you're willing to get up and put that work in. And through the years, dude, I have a handful of guys in my office. I only have 10 guys right now. I've had as many as 24, but there's a handful of guys that probably would not be able to make the money they're making in any other avenue in their life if they wouldn't have, showed up at that tool shop, dude.
Right.
And I even to this day, anytime somebody comes in my shop and wants to tell me that they're a felon on their application, I really want to help that person out. I really want to give somebody, I believe in second chances. All my people, my closest friends tell me I have too big of a heart and
Sure.
I wear my shit on my sleeve and I shouldn't be like that. But There's some success stories that come out of it, man. One of the best guys in the tool game was locked up for 15 years of his life.
Wow.
And he's not even 40. He's locked up for 15 years of his life, dude, and he's one of the top salesmen in the entire industry.
Wow.
So, wanting to help people out is probably what drives me now, that desire you're talking about,
Sure.
the desire to want to help other people out. And I think that's why the business, my life, everything around me, my people, my friends, my family, everything just seems to blossom and flourish so much more because I'm not looking in the mirror looking for the personal success.
Right.
I give a shit about the people that are around me and their success just as much, not all the time, just as much, sometimes more than I care about my own personal success.
Sure. You'll sacrifice some of your own personal success to help others win. And that's a pretty common trait when it comes to long-term entrepreneurs, which is this self-sacrifice mentality, helping others. And just like you, I'm the same way. Like I made good money when I was doing it for the money and doing it for myself. I didn't start making great money until I started doing it for other people. And that's really a transition that you need to really make if you're ever going to really be, real success. I'm talking, $500,000 a year personal income and above. If you're going to reach those kind of, multi-million dollars a year, if you're going to reach those kind of levels, it's only going to be because you transition from I want the next fancy car, the next fancy house, to I want to just help people. And I didn't start making real big money until that became my focus. So my focus was like, you know what? I'm not even in it for my personal gain anymore. I'm not even doing this because I want the next fancy car or this fancy toy or whatever. It's because I just want to help people. The second I started putting in the work to help people, a few things happened. One, my desire went up. Okay, so I already had a lot of desire like you. I was already driven and self-motivated. And again, at a young age, I wanted all this fancy shit because I grew up poor as dirt as well. And, unfortunately, I didn't have anybody even want to give me anything, so I just had to go do it on my own. But once I transitioned and started doing it for other people, I got even a higher level desire to do it. I got better at it. Because as the desire level goes up, your decision to get better at something goes up. So your skill set improves. You're paying more attention. Again, you're getting up earlier. You're staying later. You're doing weekends when you didn't used to before. You're reinvesting maybe when you hadn't before because you realize that'll help some other people. You're hiring more people. You're taking more chances on helping other people out. Maybe hiring some people that maybe you wouldn't otherwise, but now you can because you have the resources. And I think that when you go to the next level in the entrepreneur game, and I write about this in my book, Maximize Your Now, the 5 levels of success. That 5th one is the legacy level. And that was above prosperity. Prosperity is where you're at for yourself. You want the fancy cars, the fancy houses, the fancy trips, the Gucci, the this and that. The next level is the legacy level, and that's when you start doing it for others. I can tell you at the legacy level, when you make it there, money comes faster and easier than it ever did at any other level you were at because your focus is no longer on making a dollar, it's on helping somebody. And because of that, you end up making way more money. I wished I would have got to that level 15 years ago. I wasted a lot of time just in that prosperity just for me and toys, and I wasn't thinking about legacy and helping others. And the second I jumped to that level, my income just quadrupled, quintupled. And it's still just, and the more I focus on helping others, the faster my income continues to increase.
Talk about desire. I truly believe to this day, there's 75% of my guys, I feel I have the desire for them to win at life more than they do. Yeah. And I hold that so true. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I swear to God, I believe that 80% of my guys, I want them to win at life more than they want themselves to win. And the difference is I don't fucking give up on them, dude.
Right.
I don't give up
They'll
on
quit
them
on themselves before you
absolutely.
Quit on them. Yep.
And that's why they're still here. Right. They're still here because I'm not willing to give up on them.
Right.
And the ones that I have given up on, dude, to this day still hit me up. Hey, man, can I get hired? Like, them days are over, dude. I'm done. Like, we've walked down to the water together 1,000 times, dude, and you haven't drank the water. I'm done shoving your face inside the water. I can't do it anymore.
And you have to. And I mean, you have to eventually understand that you can't save everybody. You may try to save everybody, but you can't save everybody. And you got to let them go at some point, because they got to either go and figure it out on their own, or they got to go and they just will never figure it out. You can't save the world, but what you can do is you can take the people that you can affect and that you can help, and that you can help them discover within themselves this desire that I think kind of came naturally for you and me, but you can help them discover it for themselves, or
by leading,
by example, leading, and proving it can be done, and mentoring and caring and coaching. And, one minute you got to be their psychiatrist, and then you got to be their coach, and then you got to be their bank,
the list goes on and on and on and on.
Well, what you've done, we better wrap this up. We're going a little long here, but man, it's been an amazing conversation. I hope you guys have gotten a lot of info out of this, getting in his head and kind of hearing this from a different perspective and hearing it from somebody else. I know has done a lot to enlighten me. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the channel. Like it, comment. We'd love to get some feedback on this stuff. I know he's gonna be tagged in wherever this is found. He'll be tagged, so you can reach out to him if you want to. Follow him on his Instagram, and also hit him up with some questions if you need some help. Put a lot of comments in the comment section. We'll respond to them and get back with any questions you might have about any of this. And share this. I mean, that's the other big thing too. Share this. One of my missions in doing this is to get this word out, get this to the people, especially right now that are going to really need it. It's really important that we get it. You might be doing fine. Some of this, watching this or listening to this, you might be doing great, and God bless you if you are, but someone else isn't. So share the crap out of this. Share it on all your social media platforms, so we can spread messages like this out there to help some people. You'd be surprised. I get messages all the time from people that are like, you don't know what that last video did for me, and that just that just smacks you right in the face.
I got a couple things that I've written down in notes that I want to touch on real quick. I won't take too much time.
No, we'll go as long as you want. Go.
But speaking of what you just said, I post a couple. I don't have a big social media following, and I don't do real well with social media. But I posted a couple of little quick 1-minute clips on my social media, dude. And every time I do it, a handful of people reach out like, "Man, you're speaking the truth. Thank you so much for this. I needed this today." So coming on this, doing this podcast with you, I'm hoping that some people can get some value out of this. And I believe, there's a couple notes I wrote down. Like, I truly believe that when you speak to yourself and you're talking, you got to believe what you're saying. If that makes sense, it doesn't matter what other people think or believe. You've got to believe what you're saying can happen, and then put that into action.
Right.
And there's a snowball that happens, whether you're going downhill or you're going uphill at this point. There's a snowball that happens, and the snowball takes years to develop, decades to develop. Success doesn't happen overnight. You're going to fail, and you hear it all the time on these motivationals, man, that we listen to. Fucking the best things in life are failures. You learn the most from your failures, and I've learned that road that I turned down was the biggest turning point in my life, and it was a major failure. It's a scar on me for the rest of my life that I can't get rid of. I also want people to understand that when you do get going and it's good, it's very easy to shine when it's good, right?
Right.
But when you bump your head and you trip and you fall, it's not so easy to be happy-go-lucky and the alarm goes off at 3:30 and I'm going to get up and get going. that's when you got to shine the most, is when you are stumbling and you are falling and you are tripping and slipping. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's when you're going to grow. I mean, you're not going to grow when it's easy. I mean, let's face it. If it's easy, you're not going to grow. If I go to the gym and I put on X amount of weight on the bench and I start benching and it's easy, I'm not growing. I'm not going to grow until it gets hard, and then I'm going to grow, right? So my chest, my muscles aren't going to get stronger. I'm not going to get better unless it's hard. So business is the same way. Life is the same way. If it isn't hard, you're not growing. And just like in the gym, like you need to look forward to it being hard. You need to say, look, man, put on more weight I've never done before. I want to feel what that extra weight feels like because I want to be challenged by it. Well, business is the same way. Life is the same way. Don't tap out or get scared or get intimidated because life gets heavy. Matter of fact, look forward to those things. Look forward to those times, just like you would in the gym. I want to see if I can pass the test. And, like we do in the gym, right? Get breathing heavy and hard and, woo, let's get this. Let's get it. Come on, right? Start yelling at yourself. And I'm a big believer in what you just talked about, the self-affirmation. Look in the mirror. Look dead in the mirror. Look at yourself in the eyeballs. A lot of people don't do that, and that's key. Look yourself in the eyeballs, and you tell yourself you're good enough, and you will persevere regardless of how heavy life gets. And you say that over and over. And you train your mind to be as strong as your muscles so that you can take on, no matter what life serves you up, I'm ready, man. Let's do it.
Have those conversations with yourself where you build yourself up to understand that there are going to be bumps in the road, man. And you've got to be willing to take those bumps and keep on going. The suspension's got to be good. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Slow down on your expectations and speed up on your work. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to get there overnight. A lot of these, these kids now want this success overnight, man, and it happens, but it's so freaking rare. Like I keep saying, it takes decades to be successful.
Sure.
Decades. You got to slow down on your expectations and speed up on your work. And when I mean speed up, I don't mean try and cram a 12 or a 14-hour work day into 6 hours. I mean put that work in consistently, day in and day out, week in and week out, year after year, decade after decade. And after you put 10 or 20 years into something and you give it your all, and that's all you do is breathe, sleep, eat, and shit what you're speaking of,
right,
then, at that point, if you're still not going somewhere, you should probably turn down a different avenue.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? After a couple of decades of going after something. But you put 5 years into something and you think you're going to be an overnight millionaire, man. Those are far and few between.
Sure.
Far and few between.
I think really to touch on that, the key really is growth. If you're growing and you see growth from week to week, right? It's like going to that. I always use the gym as a good analogy. It's like if you see positive improvements week to week, then you know you're on track, right? If you're a little leaner this week than you were last week, if you added, an extra 5 pounds, or you got an extra rep on this week on the bench, you're growing, you're getting better. And it's going to be slower. Like, you're not going to go from like you're out of shape to you're ready for the Olympia stage in 2 months, right? It's a 10-year journey, right? It's like becoming a millionaire. Like there's a journey to it. But what you did see over that 10 years was steady improvement, week after week after week. There's a lot of dollar figures between 0 and $1 million, and it's okay to make some of those too. So don't try to go from 0 to $1 million, but go from you made $1,000 this week, you're going to make $1,100 next week, and then you're going to make $1,200 the week after that. If you do that consistently, like he's saying, over time, it grows into obscene amounts of money. Just like the champion bodybuilder that goes on that stage with Mr. Olympia. He didn't look like that before. He looks like that day because that's his best day. And really, if you focus on that, I think really as long as you're growing and getting better every day, I think that's almost as valuable as money.
Well, one of my good friends said, man, you try and get 1% better every day.
That's right.
And I love that when I saw it for the first time, Cory. I think it's so true, man. If you just try and better yourself, no matter what area of your life it is in,
right,
when you try and get better by 1% every day and you look at yourself and you have that conversation, I need to be 1% better today than I was yesterday. And you look in the mirror and you tell yourself that day in and day out, that shit adds up over time, man.
Yeah.
And that's how you win the long race. We're not trying to win the short race, man. I want to win the long race.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you realize it's a marathon, not a sprint. and you put in the time, you dedicate it, the discipline. Really, I think it comes down to the combination of desire and discipline will always equal success. If you desire it and you have the discipline to get up, look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm going to be better today than I was yesterday, and then you go out there and you give it your best, I think that you're going to end up successful every single time. I've never seen a person that has done those two things in combination that doesn't end up extremely successful. It just really can be boiled down to that simple
I love it.
Of an equation.
I like it. And I think that another thing that we should just touch on real briefly, because I see it happen all the time, people blaming other people's for, people pointing the finger at other people when there's faults. And if you can have that self-responsibility, like nobody is at fault for anything that goes on except me, then you can truly start making big change in your life, whether it's in business, with your family, with your kids, just in life in general. When you can start pointing the finger at yourself. My buddy told me this, man, my buddy Ricky, when I'm pointing my finger at you, I got 3 pointing back at me, right? Don't point the finger, man. That's a good one, right? So I feel like there's a lot of finger pointing that goes on in business where people try and blame others. And even if the blame is on somebody else, even if there is blame to be pointed, if you accept that responsibility yourself and take it on yourself and, face it head on, it becomes a lot easier to win those battles when you start falling and stumbling, when you're blaming other people. When you blame other people, you can't do shit about their actions.
Right.
You can't do anything about somebody else's actions. The only actions you can change are your own. So why even bother pointing the finger at somebody else?
Put no energy into things you can't control and put all your energy into things you can control, and never be a victim. Because that's a slippery slope. We could do a whole another podcast, a whole another show with just that. And we're gonna have him back. You've been a fantastic guest and an interview. We're gonna have you back on the show, and we're gonna talk about some other different things. I mean, we haven't even gotten into actual operations or anything like that. So a lot for us to talk about. We're gonna have you back on the show here soon. But I want to thank you again for coming down. I know some people have gotten a lot of value out of this, and please, like I said, share it. And again, you're gonna help change lives if you do that, and that's what our next mission is to do that. So, really appreciate you guys for tuning in. Appreciate everything you do as far as listening to us and paying attention. It means a lot. It really does. And until the next show, God bless, and
Amen to that, brother.
keep working hard. Right.
One last thing, I'd just like to say thank you to the man upstairs for making this possible, man. I've been wanting to do a podcast for a minute. This is the first time I've done one. I know we didn't really hone in on desire, but I'm very appreciative.
No, we did. I think we hit it spot on. I think most people are going to believe we hit it spot on.
I really appreciate the ability to come sit down here and share, a little bit of your story. I know we didn't touch a lot on it, but it's very similar, man. Self-built. Yep. And I can't say thank you enough.
All right, man.
Appreciate
it
tremendously.
Brother. Appreciate it, man.
And,
thank you.
I can't wait to come back.
For sure. See you guys on the next one.